Welcome back, artists. Today we are going to be starting our fall still life. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw out our pumpkins. So I have a picture of a group of pumpkins. When you draw, the first thing you draw is the thing that is in front. So you're looking for something that isn't overlapped by anything. If you look here at this pumpkin, do you see how we can see the entire pumpkin? Except for where it's cut off in the picture, but the whole pumpkin is there. If I were to start with this one, do you see how the gourd is behind this pumpkin? So we have to draw the things that are in front. So this would be a good choice. This one also would work out because nothing is overlapping it. We can't do this pumpkin or this one or that one until we have these two done first. The other thing you want to kind of think about when you are drawing is its location. Do you notice how this one is sort of in the center? I folded this paper in half, and here you can see where the middle is. So that gives me kind of a good idea of where this should go. And I like to start with the part with the stem at the top. So I want to look carefully at the lines. The other thing I want you to notice is you see how most of these lines are curves. Even though we know that these seem like straight lines when you look at the pumpkin, it's actually curved when we draw it. So we're going to be drawing a lot of curves today. So we'll go ahead and get started with this part of the stem, and we're just going to draw a small curve line that I call it a frown. You see how it kind of curves down? So we're going to do a small frown, and then we're going to draw the two edges of the stem. And I'm going to start with this one on the top. So I'm just going to come down. Do you see how it's sort of like an S shape? So I'm going to bring this down, come over, and then come down some more. Now the other thing I noticed is this sort of mirrors it, right? It's a very similar line. But you notice how it's thinner here than it is here. So as I repeat this line, I'm going to get further away, especially here at the bottom. So I'm going to bring it down, around, and then I'm going to make this wider and kind of come out. So now I have the outside of my stem. I'm next going to connect the two lines. And do you notice how there's little bitty curves here? Now in nature, when we draw patterns, we want them to be random, okay? So we don't want to have a perfectly even pattern because this doesn't look natural, right? If this were at the bottom of the stem, right, that would look kind of funny. So when we're drawing ours, we want to do maybe a big one, a couple small ones, so it's a little bit more random, and that makes it look more natural. So I'm going to do that. Notice how it's still a curved shape. It doesn't go straight across. So I'm going to kind of curve it down, and as I curve it down, I'm going to put a couple of bumps in it. And there's really no right or wrong way to do that. Then the final thing we're going to do is add some details. You see how these lines come down? And then they help define how the stem twists. So I'm going to start with actually in the middle here. Do you see how it curves and then there's a point, and that's where the line comes out? So I'm going to find a point on my drawing, and I'm going to use that to repeat this line. It's going to come up, curve, and then it's going to go off the edge. We don't see it all the way up. That's what helps it look like it's twisted. This one's going to do the same thing, but I'm going to go a little bit further up, like that. And then I'm going to bring a line down here that comes off the bottom. And maybe I'll do a couple more lines that come through there. So by adding those lines, those contour lines, it helps make that look like the stem is like rounded and twisted. Now I'm going to draw the outside of my pumpkin. Notice how these lines go off the edge of the paper. We are going to do that as well. So one line starts on this edge, the other line starts over here. And this, it goes up just a little bit, and then it comes down and off the paper. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to come up just a little bit, and then I'm going to go off the paper. I want my pumpkin to be nice and big and round. I'm going to do the same thing over here. It comes from here, goes up just a little bit, and then off the paper. And there we have our first pumpkin. Oh, am I done? I noticed there's a few more details. Do you see how there's a few curved lines that help define the pumpkin? If you look carefully, this outside line, the contour, is repeated on the inside. This one has a bunch of them, but I'm just going to draw a few. But notice how this side curves the same, but when I get over here, it changes direction. So it sort of ends up almost straight right here in the middle, and then it curves the other way. So I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to draw a curved line here. I'm going to add just a few curved lines. I don't have to do a whole bunch, because we'll be painting in between these two. And if you find the middle, you could almost go straight down. Now I am done with that pumpkin. All right, the next part I'm going to draw is this pumpkin over here. Now I'm going to look at the location. Do you see how it's the stem? I'm going to focus on the stem right now. It's close to the edge, and it's not quite up to halfway. So if this is halfway, I'm going to come down just a little bit, and I see this line kind of curves down. So I'm going to have a small smile, and then I'm going to have a curved line that comes down on the side, sort of like a J, and then this one curves down very similar, but again, it's thinner here, thicker here, thinner here, thicker here. Similar to what we did on the bottom here, we're going to draw some curved lines, but this time I notice it's sort of like a triangle. It comes to a point. So I'm going to do some curved lines, random curved lines. I'm going to try to make it look sort of like a V. And then adding some details to the stem, finding those points, and just drawing up the stem. Maybe I'll have one here, over here. Oh, maybe I'll put one more in here on the edge. Now this time when we draw the pumpkins, you notice where the location is. On this one, the edge was near the stem. The edge is here, but the pumpkin starts up here. So we're gonna come up on the pumpkin, or up on the stem, and then we're going to curve down, and it again goes off the paper. So I'm gonna go not quite halfway up, and I'm gonna curve off the paper. And then I'm going to imagine this line goes through and finishes off on the other side. So I can either use my finger to imagine or my pencil, lift it above, and then I can figure out where it would be and go off the edge. Now, the last thing we have are the details. And this one's a little bit trickier too, because some of these go back and off the side instead of just off the front. We're gonna start here though with this point. And we're gonna draw a line that comes down from that point. It curves. I'm gonna put another one over here on the edge. Do you see how that one really kind of sticks out? So I'm gonna go up a little bit and off the edge. And then these here, instead of going all the way down to the edge, they're gonna go off more near the top. So I'm gonna curve this line up and off the top. Again, I'm not gonna draw as many as they have here, but I do wanna put a few in there to give the pumpkin the feeling, the illusion that it's round. And you notice how just adding those few lines really makes my pumpkin look round. And maybe I'll put one back here. All right, so now we have 2 pumpkins done. Next, we're gonna do this little gourd. Now this one is a little bit different because this is not the easiest shape to draw by itself. We're gonna do what's called some guidelines. So when you draw guidelines, you draw very light. So do you notice how there's like a circle shape here, right? I'm gonna draw a really light circle to fill this part, and then I'm gonna do another circle here, and then I'm gonna connect with curves. Now I'm looking at the location. Where is this located compared to the pumpkin I already drew? So this is over here. So I'm gonna draw a very light circle. This is where I kind of want my gourd to go. And remember, this is a drawing, so it's going to look different. I drew this one as well, but you notice how the pumpkins are still different, but they look like pumpkins. That's the important part. So back to our gourd. Now I'm gonna go above here and maybe this way a little bit, and I'm gonna draw a smaller circle. So we'll pretend like this is the head and this is the belly, and now we need to put a neck. Notice how on this one, it's sort of like a sideways U. So I'm gonna follow this curve, and then instead of going straight, I'm going to curve it in and then go back to this one. This one, do you see this side is a little bit straighter. So on this side, I'm gonna go kind of on the edge, and then I'm gonna go down to the other edge. Notice how this one I went in a little bit more, and then I rounded it. Now, if I'm happy with the shape, which I am, then I can go back and make these lines a little bit darker. The last thing we want to do, and these lines can be erased. We'll also be painting this, and the paint will cover up these pencil lines, especially the light ones. We're going to continue and add just a few of these patterns as well. We're not going to necessarily draw these shapes, but we're going to put in some lines to help with the roundness of this object as well. So this is going to come around and then down, and then this one would come this way and then down. So I'm just adding a few lines wherever I would like. And this one, we don't really see a stem on it, so we're not going to worry about that.